All right, guys, welcome to Wembley. This is really, really exciting. We're about to do our FA Cup final preview inside there. Joining me right now, I've got Jim Daly, who's a comedian and a Crystal Palace fan. Yeah. But before we get into the game, why don't we go have a little look around, Jim? Well, what a game.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So Jim and I are in the away dressing room. This is where the United players are going to be pre-match, post-match, half-time. That probably covers it. So we're going to hunt around and see what's going on. This is pretty solid, actually. It doesn't... Oh, it's a little give. It's a little give. If that breaks, I'm in trouble. Oh, that's handy, isn't it? A little hook. This is for number 2. Do you think these numbers represent where the players sit in terms of squad numbers, or they just hook so they know if one goes missing? It's like, oh, who took number 3?
It was obviously Fellaini. He's going to nick clothes, isn't he?
In this side, I tell you what.
I'm a man that needs I need a hairdryer.
Well, they work, don't they?
I think you.
Do they?
I imagine you probably need it.
Oh, I use a hairdryer. So this bit we're not allowed in.
No.
Well,
Nice. Nice.
who's going to stop me?
Nice hand sanitizer.
So yeah, go on. That's
Oh, that. Do you know what?
that doesn't work. There are some lone individual baths which I will test out. Yeah, I can confirm this is a bath.
That's Rooney.
Who hasn't wanted to sit in a bath at Wembley?
That is Rooney. That is freezing cold.
It is. That is really cold. Do you want to come and get your face in here? It looks quite deep, doesn't it? Should we test one? Chances of getting wet pretty high.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Oh, it didn't. Well, obviously couldn't move out the way of that. But they work, I can confirm. Should we see what's in the fridge? It's like what was that programme?
Like through the keyhole.
Or Cribs. Got all my orange juice, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
Do we know what's in it? That's the corridor. That's how they get to the pitch. It is pretty comfy. All right. Well, these are the FA Cup changing rooms. Well, certainly this is the away changing room. Hope you've enjoyed our snooping around. Onwards and upwards. Welcome, hello and good morning. This is our spectacular FA Cup final preview. We're inside actual Wembley Stadium. That's where they're going to be playing some actual football. And we'd say thanks to FATV for letting us come in. So subscribe to them, they're lovely. This is Jim.
Hello.
There he is. He is the Crystal Palace fan. Apparently there is one. There he is.
That's me.
And we've got House and Gaz and Adam on Skype. They're going to join us. Guys, we can't turn the fans off. Can't really hear you. No, boys, there's fans and stuff. No. Why don't you just come here? Just come here. Come here. There we go. That's easier, isn't it? That's better. What's happening here? Be polite, boys. Be polite. Okay. Hello. Welcome to Wembley.
Be civil.
Where are we at?
I don't need this headphone.
Wembley.
That's right. Let's get started, shall we?
Great green screen, Sam.
Thanks very much. So, the FA Cup final presents Louis van Gaal with an opportunity to win a trophy, or as he calls it, a title. The FA Cup title, as it's now known. How important is this competition to Louis van Gaal? Gaza and Jim, I'll come to you second as you represent the Crystal Palace fan group here. So, Howson.
I think for Louis van Gaal's career at Manchester United and for his legacy at Manchester United, I think it's over in probably less than a week's time. So for him to be leaving on a high, and for us as a club to be leaving on a high after the season that we've had, I think it's great. And I think Louis van Gaal, as a pedigree as a manager, it's not going to go up there with his European Cup win. It's not going to go up there with winning titles in multiple countries, or even the job that he did with AZ Alkmaar, which I think is a phenomenal achievement in that league.
People talk about
But
Leicester's up there.
yeah, but what he's done is fantastic, and we aspire to be more than this, don't we? But it's a good day out at Wembley. That's all I'm bothered about.
Adam McCullough,
Yo.
same question.
First of all, what a beautiful place to be, eh?
It's nice, isn't it?
It's nice to be here, innit? And this is what it's all about, coming to Wembley, having a good day out. I know it hasn't been the greatest of seasons, and like I said before, if you finished top 4 and got the FA Cup, Louis van Gaal still should have got questioned.
Yep.
But I think Louis deserves some respect. He's a great coach. He hasn't done well for us. You know, he needs to go. We know that. But it'd be nice to see him bow out with a trophy. And we haven't won the FA Cup for a long time, 2004. Arsenal are above us in the record now, so we can level that up too. So there's a lot at stake on Saturday, and we need to be at the races because we're capable of messing it up, and we don't want that to happen.
Okay, Jim, I'll come to you last. Gaz, I'll give you a Crystal Palace themed question.
Yeah.
How important do you think this competition is right now? And how important do you think victory is, given that if we lose, it's not like losing an FA Cup final to, let's say, Arsenal or Manchester City or Chelsea or teams that we know have good squads and are big teams. With no disrespect, we're playing the team that finished, I think, 14th in the Premier League. 15th in the Premier League. So is this more of a banana skin than an opportunity for success, perhaps, to Louis van Gaal?
First things first, in case this is the first ever Full-Time Devils video you've watched, I'm not a Crystal Palace fan, I'm a Man United fan.
Bit flaky, changing your mind.
I'm just a glory hunter, mate, clearly. But yeah, this game, I think that it's the whole FA Cup has been like that so far, though. I think if any of them games that we've got knocked out that have been a bit of shame in it, the only hard game we actually got so far is West Ham, and it took a replay to beat them. So it's sort of like minimum expectation. Obviously, at the start of a campaign, you never know who's going to turn up in an FA Cup. But if someone told me all the teams were going to play in the FA Cup this season, then I'd say minimum expectation is to win it. So I think that we definitely have to win it this season. Louis van Gaal has to win it. I think he's gone either way. And I think that after winning it, obviously, as fans, we'll look back at this season and we'll say it wasn't a successful one. All we did was get an FA Cup, finish 5th. That's nowhere near good enough for Man United. But when people talk about the class of 92, they always talk about that Youth Cup win and they say that was sort of the catalyst for future success. I think this FA Cup win could be like that for a lot of United squad at the minute. I mean, some of the youngsters that have come through, I don't need to name them all, you all know who they are. A lot of them will play. I think Borthwick Jackson will play, and I think Marshall and Rashford will both start as well. So this could really be a catalyst for their futures as young lads winning the FA Cup. What an achievement that'd be for them.
I think they'd be buzzing off it. Yeah. Jim, from the outside, what's your perception of Louis van Gaal, how he's been treated? Do you think the pressure he's been under? Do you think the constant reports of Mourinho, is that helpful? Do you think he deserves to go? Do you think we should stop complaining? Where do you stand in all this?
I don't think that's been helpful, the Mourinho stuff. Same with Pep at City and Pellegrini, isn't it? Once another name comes in, Pellegrini's like, well, why do I need to bother anymore? It hasn't worked out for Van Gaal. I'm not sure I rate him as a coach, to be honest. I think United can do better. The only thing that worries me is there are similarities between this and 1990. And in 1990, Ferguson had been there for a few years, hadn't won anything, then won the FA Cup against Palace, and then went on to be a fantastic manager. Part of me worries that maybe that means that Van Gaal is going to win on Saturday and will go on to be the greatest manager in English history.
I very much doubt that that's going to happen. Very much doubt that's going to happen.
No, I actually think Palace have got a very good chance. I mean, you're talking about your run up to the Cup. We've had a really hard run. We've beaten Spurs at White Hart Lane, Southampton, Stoke, Watford. We've done really well to get here. And I think actually being the underdogs and playing a bigger team for us is actually perfect. We thrive under that.
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see. Guys, last game of the season now. We've already talked about the Premier League. This is it. Who do you think might be making their final appearances for Manchester United in this stadium?
I'm worried that it might be Spanish Dave's last. Really worried it might be Spanish Dave's last. I think Michael Carrick, by all accounts, hasn't been given a new deal. Looks like he could be on his way somewhere in this country. I also believe he's had an offer from Australia, which is interesting. So I think Michael Carrick. Wouldn't be shocked if it was Wayne Rooney, in all honesty, with a new manager potentially coming in. Wouldn't be shocked to see the likes of Fellaini moved on in the summer. I think Januzaj is probably very close to the exit, and I think, as was mentioning on the way down here today, I think Pereira, the way he's been treated, might be indicative of something that's happening with him. So there could be several, and I think the manager, this will be his last game also. So I think there's several people who'll be bidding farewell after this match. Let's hope it's on a high, though.
Adam, I just on your foot. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
Any people that you're really concerned about seeing? Anybody you want this to be their last game?
Well, Michael Carrick, I don't want it to be his last game, but I think after seeing how he brought his kids out against Bournemouth, final home game of the season, and I think if I would hate Michael Carrick to just leave without the fans proper saying thank you to him, because I think he's been a great player for us. The FA Cup is the only thing missing from his collection at Old Trafford.
Only a year off a testimonial as well.
Same with Wayne Rooney, only a year off a testimonial. So it'd be great for Michael Carrick to bow out with that FA Cup winners medal that he hasn't got yet. But I will really miss him, because I think when he came in, we bought him for 16 million. Everyone said we were overspending. Why were we replacing Roy Keane with Michael Carrick? He's not the same player. And we knew we had to evolve when Roy Keane left. There's not many Roy Keanes about. We'd love a Roy Keane or a Brian Robson now. They don't come about that often. But Michael Carrick did. And I think, yes, you look at Scholes, Keane, Robbo as the greats in central midfield at Manchester United. But I think Michael Carrick is definitely top of the list, just below that.
I think that's probably fair. Different kind of footballer, a much more cultured footballer, perhaps.
And I think he should be respected a lot more. He should go into these Euros. You see how Italy used Pirlo and used his experience as he went on. England are going out there. I know it's not the England thing, but we're at Wembley, so why not? With Milner, Delph and all this lot. Henderson, Wilshere. Michael Carrick's won it all, man.
It's weird. It's weird as well because I don't remember England ever misusing any other central midfielder that played for Man United before.
Ooh, shade!
But yeah, you know the two players that these guys have mentioned. I think that Michael Carrick. I think it's definitely his last game. The Bournemouth game, the way that he took a shot from about 40 yards out at one point that nearly went in at the bar. He never usually does that. I think he was just desperate for that goal. We saw him getting forward as well a little bit more on set piece. I just think he really wanted the goal. I didn't even think about it either, but when Howson said then when he brought his kids on at the end, I think it's definitely Michael Carrick's last game for Man United, and I do think he'll start as well. But a lot of the other guys, apart from David De Gea that have been mentioned, completely depends on the manager next season. Players like Januzaj and Pereira, if let's say Jose Mourinho comes in next year, if he sits them down and says, look, I've got a plan for you, I think Jose Mourinho would absolutely love Adnan Januzaj, for example, then I think that they will stay and if they're promised to be involved in the squad a little bit more. But Spanish Dave, I think that if an offer comes in from a top European club, he's definitely off. And honestly, I can't even blame him for it either because he's won Player of the Year 3 times in a row. As a goalkeeper, you shouldn't really be put under that much pressure, and he's not even getting that much reward out of it. He's not getting Champions League football. So it pains me to say it, and I think if he stays for another year with a new manager, I think we'll be back in the Champions League, back challenging for titles. But football's careers are short, and if a top European club comes in for him, he will be off.
Said Giggs' wasn't.
Short.
Yeah, it wasn't short. It's 20 years. It's a long time, that.
Shut up, you smart ass.
Thanks so much, guys. Jim, I'll ask you a question about the Manchester United squad. Hope you don't mind. Howson touched on Wayne Rooney. There's been lots of talk about him.
Touched on who?
Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Touched right on him. Do you think he's a player who should be leaving a club like Manchester United? Do you think we should still want a player of his calibre? Where do you stand on?
I think Rooney is gone. I think Rooney's done, personally. He can't play up front, and he can't play up front anymore. I could see him as a midfielder, maybe dropping into that for United and for England, I think. But I just don't think he has the impact on the game that he used to when he was younger.
I think it's maybe a level of consistency because he was excellent against Bournemouth in the last day of the season, playing in central midfield, knocking long passes and short. It's often his range of passing that lets him down when he plays in the middle because he often wants to be Paul Scholes and David Beckham and spray that 50-yard pass, and so often smashes it off the pitch or underhits it. Whereas perhaps all he needs is a bit of time to learn it because he's being stuck in a role and being told, right, Wayne, we know you've spent the last 15 years being a centre forward. Now we want you to play centre midfield, and we are going to pay to Paul Scholes straight away. It's perhaps a bit harsh.
I got a lot of stick after the game against Bournemouth for not giving him man of the match, and I think myself included here, we have to learn to expect something different from Wayne Rooney now. He's not that old Wayne Rooney with the ferociousness, the fire in his belly that just wants to go through defenders and score goals. He's not that guy anymore. But also people comparing him to Paul Scholes, he's not that guy either. He hasn't got the brain to be able to dictate the tempo of a play, but he can do a midfield role, only in a midfield three, in my opinion. And I think we're almost over-accommodating for him a lot of the time as well, like where we're just trying to squeeze him in, even if, just so we got the captain in the team. I know he's a big player for us, and he's done a lot for the club, and he deserves whatever plaudits he does get, but I don't think he should be starting week in, week out now. Obviously, this is the FA Cup final preview. He should be starting in that. But I think if he's at the club next season, he shouldn't be, and he wouldn't be starting week in, week out for me.
Okay, Adam, what is your starting lineup for the FA Cup final?
Well, I've heard that the team's going to be the same as Bournemouth. So that would be David De Gea, Valencia, Smalling, Blind, Cameron, Borthwick, Jackson, Carrick, Rooney, Mata, Lingard, Rashford, and Marshall. Yep. Now,
interestingly, I asked you what you would do.
I'm going to go into that. I'm happy with Cameron Borthwick Jackson starting over Marcus Rojo because I think he's a better defensively and he whips a lot more decent balls into the box. We haven't gotten many of them recently, but he does whip them into the box really well. That's why his name's Cameron Beckham Jackson, obviously. And then we've got Lingard. I would probably take Lingard out. He's the only one, and I would play Memphis. But that's just me personally. Memphis, does he really deserve to start in an FA Cup final after his form recently? Maybe not. And it'd be nice to see the likes of Lingard, Rashford, Cameron Borthwick Jackson starting an FA Cup final for Man United. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
It's a lovely thing. Howson, what's your team?
It's almost bringing a tear to my eye, that. We're the same as him. We've kind of knowing that the team's likely to be what it was against Bournemouth. You don't really want to deviate too much from that, but I'm going to go with pretty much the same thing. I think Damian's probably not done enough recently to warrant a starting place. I think Tony Valencia's looked pretty good at right back. With Zaha, is Zaha going to be on the left or the right with him?
The right, to start with.
But drifts, doesn't he? So I probably would go with Tony Valencia, but I wouldn't mind us seeing Tony Valencia push further up into that right wing spot. But maybe that's not the time to experiment with it being the FA Cup final. So Tony Valencia right back. I'm going to go with Cam at left back because I see a real quality to his play. I think it's not just what he does with the ball. I think he's very intelligent in how he jockeys when he's a defender. So I like Borthwick Jackson for many reasons. The defensive partnership picks itself. The question mark is then, what do you do in midfield? Now, Kabay being fit, being a bit more box-to-box, I'm not sure I want Carrick up against him. And I don't want to be sentimental about it being Carrick's last game, so I'm going to go with Schneidlin as that one. And then I'm going to go with Rooney and Mata ahead, although Mata will play on the right. I don't want to see him on the right. He's better in the middle. I think Rooney and Mata, you get a little bit of something out of them in the middle. Lingard on the right, Marshall on the left, and Rashford up front, and that should be enough.
Who would have thought Marcus Rashford would be starting in the FA Cup final for Man United?
Not Marcus Rashford, I don't think, mate.
I don't even think his mum or dad would have thought. No one in this world would have thought that. It's such a beautiful thing.
I've thought it all morning. Gaz, what's your team?
I think that for the FA Cup final, the final game of the season, the biggest game of the season, you have to play the team that deserves to play the most based on their performances throughout the season. And I think that would be, like these guys have said, the same team that played against Bournemouth. Some people will be saying, you know, Michael Carrick, does he really deserve to be in there? And it's more of a case of does anyone else deserve to be in there above him? And I don't think that Morgan Schneidlin deserves to be in above him. I don't think Ander Herrera deserves to be in above him. What are you trying to say, Sam?
Well, just on your level of deservedness, does that mean you would start Fellaini as he scored in the quarterfinal and the semi-final?
No, because when I say deservedness, I actually mean, I don't know. Is deservedness a word? No, I know. I mean players who have played the best throughout the season. They're the players who deserve to play. No, Fellaini's not played the best. Carrick's had a better season.
If Gaz is saying that, Fellaini has to start. If you're saying, deserve to. He scored in the quarterfinal replay.
There's more to...
Turn into WWE, this.
There's more. No, there's more to playing football. I know this actually sounds ridiculous, but Fellaini scores a couple of scruffy goals. There's more to football than that. Is that general performances haven't been good enough throughout the year. So, you know what I mean? That's why someone else deserves to play above him. But yeah, apart from that, same team as the team against Bournemouth. I want to see Jesse Lingard play. I don't think Memphis deserves a space above him at all. I want to see Jesse Lingard in there. We need a player like that in a game like this, especially to help out with the fullbacks. Because like you said about Zaha.
Just before you do, Jim, should we all just take a little... It's the FA Cup final. It's all very exciting.
I love you, really.
Okay. Well done, guys. That's really good to see. Hang on, Jim's going to talk about Fellaini.
Yeah, on the point of Fellaini, actually, I actually think Fellaini is a bit of a cup player, if that makes sense. I think it actually kind of suits cup games.
I thought he was going to say something else.
No. I'm not a massive fan of his, but I would never go... Yeah. And I think if he plays... then it means we're going to have to play Mile Jednak, who's our big sort of bruising Aussie midfielder. And if that happens, Fellaini, I think, they'll take each other out of the game. I think Fellaini will take Jednak out, and that will then give up space or make it more of a kind of head-to-head in the rest of midfield, depending on who's in there, Kabay or Rooney or whatever. So if I was Van Gaal, I would play Fellaini purely for that.
Jim, this is a great section for you. We're now going to talk about Crystal Palace.
Okay, good.
So what do you expect your lineup to be? How do you expect Crystal Palace to attack Manchester United? Who do you think will be the players that could make the difference for you on the day?
So I think it will be the same, given, depending on injuries, it'll be the same lineup that's played in the semi against Watford, which will be Joel Ward at right back, Pape Souaré at left back, who's a Senegalese left back who loves getting forward but isn't actually very good defensively. And then in the middle, Delaney and Scott Dan with Hennessy in goal. In midfield, I think it'll be Kabay, Jednak if Fellaini plays, with Jason Puncheon in front of them, and then Zaha and Balassi on the wings, and Connor Wickham if he's fit up front. And our biggest threat is going to be Balassi and Zaha down the wings and Wickham up top. Those three are starting to get a connection together. Zaha, I know you guys probably don't think much of Zaha, but he's a young player. He's really talented, and on his day, he can be a real game changer. And obviously he's against Man United, so hopefully he'll be really up for that. But obviously there's Balassi as well on the left. Balassi is more sort of powerful and strong and quicker than Zaha. And if they're both on their game, it's very difficult to concentrate on just one of them because the other one gets space. So if they turn up for us, I think we can have a real good chance of winning.
Okay. Do any of you want to weigh in on Crystal Palace?
I think Balassi's better than Zaha. I do. I like him. I think he's a better player. I think he's their main danger man at the weekend. Obviously, Connor Wickham as well. We've seen times when Daley Blind and Chris Smalling aren't very well with a big physical presence, and he is that. He'll be confident after his goals in the semi-final as well. Or was it goal or goals? Goal. So Connor Wickham. But looking after Cabaye will be a big thing. I say this every time we say Crystal Palace. If we can lock off Cabaye, we lock off a big supplier to Balassi and Zaha.
Yeah.
So that's the main threat with me. Carrick against Cabaye.
What we'll do now is get a score prediction from each and everybody.
I finished. What talk about Palace?
No, you haven't got time. So quick score prediction. Howson, go on.
I'm going to talk about Palace.
Gaz, score prediction.
3-1. I think we'll have the game wrapped up at half-time. No, in fact, no, I'll change that. I'll say 2-0. I think we'll have it wrapped up at half-time. It'll be 2-0 at half-time, and then we'll just see it out for the last 45.
Okay.
He's talking about Palace, obviously, not United. I think it'll be close. 2-1 Palace, I think. But that might even be an extra time. I think it'll be a close one.
You'd be letting yourself down if you predicted that Palace lost, wouldn't you? Adam.
I don't think a lot of people think we've already won it. I don't think that's the case. But I do think we will win on the day. I think it will be edgy and tight, and I'm going 1-0 United.
Okay.
Rashford.
Howson, I'm giving you one chance. One chance. Your score prediction. Score prediction. No. Score prediction.
You're wasting more time here. The way United set up and the way we're going to have so much pressure and so much possession on the ball that we do have to watch the attacking outlet. So what I'm going to say is we're going to dominate possession and we're going to also be hit on the break. And
it's not insight. That's what we've done all season.
His prediction was
I was winding up. It was there. Like that. I'm going to say 2-1 or possibly 3-1 if we can get a little bit of a head of steam. But 0-0 at half-time.
Didn't even, just said two scores. Teams even. 2-1 Manchester United. There we go. Guys, thank you very much. We're going to have a lovely afternoon at Wembley. As for you, enjoy the game wherever you're watching, whoever you're supporting. Subscribe to FA TV because they've sorted us out a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the match. See you later. Bye.
However, the Saints have won on the field.